couldn't be more pleased than to talk to my good friend and one of the great patriots, I would submit, in modern history, Ann Coulter, also a fabulous writer. She's got a new book out today, and I have no clue how she turned this around so quickly. In Trump We Trust, Pluribus Awesome, climbing steadily up the Amazon charts right now. Why not make it number one, ladies and gentlemen? What is the harm in that? Ann Coulter, thank you for joining me today.
That's a good question, Alex.
It is so great to talk to you about this book because what you've done in this past year is something that even for you has impressed me. And I'm becoming more obsessed with this uniparty in Washington, where the Republicans and Democrats seem to be fusing together. You've seen, you probably saw the Politico headline yesterday that the Bush Institute founding director endorses Clinton. Even a disgruntled former Breitbart employee endorsed Clinton last week to much media fanfare to try to snipe at me and Steve Bannon and the Breitbart family. And you're starting to see that the entrenched political class in Washington really is becoming one. And you've stood athwart all of them, Ann, and you've always had haters and enemies, but now it has reached a whole new level and you seem to be standing stronger than ever.
It really is. Trump has flushed out all the cheap labor fanatics, all the defenders of the globalists, the ones who are in it for their own salaries and not for the country. As I say in my book, their slogan is, "I only regret that I have but one country to give for my TV gig." That's not who we are. We're not in this for the territorial Republican Party or for our, polling firm or consulting firm. It's about preserving the United States of America. And the fact that Trump is out there alone, well, it's him and the people, which is why I know sometimes some people think that perhaps it's not presidential, some of the tweets he sends, but look at how he is running his whole campaign. It's with these incessant, 10, 20, 30,000 person rallies. It's between him and the people. And his Twitter feed. We have this direct, unfiltered vision into the man I hope will be president. It is a rebellion of the people against all of Washington. And it's been a very strange thing to me. I can't believe you're in Washington. You must be like, General Jack Ripper in Dr. Strangelove, drinking only, rainwater and grain alcohol, so that your precious bodily fluids have not been corrupted. Because other than you and maybe two other people, everyone in Washington, it's as if there is something in the water. Even the conservatives I used to trust, it is just a one-party town. It is not about the country. It's about their jobs at think tanks and lobbying firms. And what can we do for you, Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, and I've joked, Ann, on the show that I only have one friend in Washington, which is Charles Hurt from the Washington Times. He's the only person I actually like in this town, and it's funny because you and I have been social acquaintances from time to time, and I'm sort of friendly. I'm not a hater. It's just this town, and you are too. You're always in a great mood, which is, I think, another thing the left hates about you. They hate when we live well, Ann. You know that, right? So, yes. And when they see us happy and thriving, that is the thing that I think bothers them the most. And we are happy and thriving right now, so live with that.
Be driving them crazy.
Well, we're watching it play out.
A hot wife doesn't care what they say.
That's exactly that is the American dream in a nutshell. And I want to talk more about you and your life and your process. And a lot of we've been taking calls in terms of what people are interested in. Some of the questions are about you personally. Some are about the book. Some are about the issues. But let's break down the essence of the book, because you have an exclusive excerpt at Breitbart News that you can check out. It was the lead story overnight. It's now on the right side, right there. The top headline is "Coulter proclaims Trump era," and it is we're grateful for it. 5,000 plus comments already, which for a book excerpt, and those tend to get, 100, 200. So people are fired up. I think that's a good sign that people are this engaged.
You have the best readers in the business.
Thank you. Let's put that on the business card. I appreciate that, Ann Coulter, right on the masthead. But one of the things that was in the excerpt that you that you mentioned is that this really isn't just about Trump putting two fingers into the air, which I know our mutual pal Milo Yiannopoulos likes the most, the lack of political correctness. It's really about the issues with you. And this is something where you're so incredible because you really are an intellect on these things. Talk about the issues and why that matters to Trump voters.
Well, one of the things, my book is designed to appeal to different people, obviously to give Trump supporters some ammunition and explain things that they've been lied to about by the media. It is an attack on the media and an attack on my old party, not the new Trumpian Republican Party. But some of it was written with the never Trumpers in mind. I'm pleased to say I don't know many of them. And just a sidebar here, I know there's this big thing about how, the only people who support Trump are uneducated white men. I love uneducated white men. I'm with Trump. I love the uneducated.
We love the poorly educated.
Right.
Yes.
Right. They're probably better off not having taken a gender studies class. But yet and still, who are the people I mostly know? They're mostly in New York and L.A., lawyers, doctors, investment bankers, a lot of Hollywood producers and comedy writers. And I must tell you, of 30 of my friends in New York, immediately, they were all fanatical Trump supporters, but one, and pretty much the same thing in L.A., depending on how tertiary we're going out on the friends. But I do know these two, and I've met others in more tertiary areas. So part of it is geared toward them because I can't get what is it they're so angry about? Why? What is this visceral dislike for him? And until that Mexican rapist speech that won my heart forever, I probably would have thought of Trump about the same way some of the never Trumpers do. Yeah. Which is to say, I never really thought about him that much. I don't think I was as bitchy as they are. But I would have thought, oh, come on, give me a break. You can't be serious. It's his issues that won us over. No one is looking at Trump saying, well, I don't really care about the issues. I just want a man like that in the White House. No, it's not that. We are the ones who are being substantive and looking at the issues. They're the ones who are being superficial snobs, including one of my former favorites, Charles Murray. He wrote that, which I make fun of.
Brilliant intellectual.
But he can't get past, the superficial stuff, the trophy wives, and Trump misstated something about the funding imperatives of Common Core. Look, Charles Murray has spent all these years writing crucially important books about the forgotten working class in America. Right. We finally have a presidential candidate who's going to come along and do something about it, something I thought my party was in favor of, helping the American people, the working class, the middle class. And what do the intellectuals say? What do the consultants and the lobbyists and the Chamber of Commerce say? No, I'm sorry, we can't help the working class.
Yeah, and this is actually, we have a question on the line about this exact issue, about Trump speaking to new groups of people who the Republicans had consistently ignored, like the working class, like union people. And this is offensive to the Washington political establishment. That Trump is reaching out to this crowd.
They just want to please the business roundtable because what their interest in politics is purely mercantile. How can they make money off of this? And they go to, in one way, I sort of feel sorry for the long-suffering plutocrats who have been ripped off by these grifters all this time. No, trust me. We just need money. We're going to make Jeb president. And they managed to get credulous billionaires to give them, millions of dollars. Jeb had, $140 million and ends up with 4 delegates. Trump spent a few $1 million and got more votes than any Republican in the history of the Republican primaries. It shows that Americans are smarter and more intellectual than either party thought or than the party apparatuses themselves are.
Ann Coulter is my guest. This is Alex Marlow on Breitbart News Daily on the Sirius XM Patriot Channel number 125. We're talking about her new book, In Trump We Trust, Pluribus Awesome. Even the headline is funny. So you know it's going to be jokes. You can get a taste of it at Breitbart.com right now with an exclusive excerpt. Also a great review from Julia Hahn, one of our mini Coulters. Maybe not quite as funny as you, Ann, but she can dig deep on a story and get some scalp.
Magnificent.
Yeah, we're big. She and I went to the same high school outside of Beverly Hills, which is an interesting thing about Breitbart.
Los Angeles is turning out to be what no one ever expected, the font of all of our greatest young intellectuals. You, Stephen Miller, Julia Hahn, all from Los Angeles. Who thought?
Yeah, it's kind of remarkable. Stephen Miller and I both interned for Larry Elder because we're both racists, and because we work for our first jobs in the conservative movement. We're for a black radio host because we don't like people who look different than we do. But then again, maybe I'm just buying the media's spin on that one. But these issues are key, and the thing that I really wanted to talk to you about, because this is where I think you and Trump have a lot in common, aside from the fact that both of you are fabulous and unabashedly so, which is that you're both leaders, and you're a leader in the opinion world, in the writing world, and he's a leader in the business world, now the political world. And this is not what people don't give Trump credit for this, that for all of his faults, he led on immigration, he led on trade, and he opposed a lot of the Republican establishment on the Iraq war as well. There are issues where he will go out there on a limb. If you read his books, and no one reads his books because they want to just dismiss him and they're afraid they might actually learn something, he was very prescient on Iran being the foremost threat in the world, which I believe it is. He was very prescient on China being our foremost threat in terms of the business world, which I believe that it is. I'm already rattling off a half dozen off the top of my head. I have no notes in front of me of issues where Donald Trump has led.
I write about this in my book, and in particular with reference to the political process. If without Trump in the race, and I begin one of the chapters this way, without Trump in the race, we have some idea what the debates would have looked like, what the election would have looked like. And I go through the questions he was asked in his very first interview on Bill O'Reilly on Fox News. Guess, close your eyes, guess what? Is it about immigration? Is it about trade? Is it about endless wars in the Middle East? ISIS. What will you do about ISIS? And the rest of the interview was about Iran, Syria, Ukraine. No mention of immigration, no mention of trade deals. We know what the media would have done. It would be all global warming, talking snowmen, and transgender bathrooms. Republicans would take turns seeing who could denounce abortion with the most vigor. No, Trump looks around the country, sees what the problems are, talks about those problems, and suddenly that's all anybody's talking about. I mean, they may not talk about it in any detail when they're attacking Trump. It tends to never get much farther than he's a buffoon. But man, did he turn the entire political discussion around by talking about trade, immigration, and endless, pointless wars.
Yeah, and I have described it similarly, is that his three-legged stool has been leading and being correct on trade, immigration, and political correctness, and standing up to the social justice warriors that have infected so much of society. And I want to talk to you about some of the younger people, because you're one of the few people in the conservative movement who can actually reach younger people. And we have a call on the line from caller Ann in Illinois is asking, what is your experience with millennials and with PC culture, and what we can do to fight back against this really nefarious infection that is happening throughout America?
That's a great question. For one thing, I'm a huge hit with millennials because, like you, I'm banned from television. So the way I get out is through the internet. And the interesting thing is no one under 50 watches TV.
Right.
So my big interviews are on the internet or on Vice. I have a review and an interview on Vice coming up again for this book. And my personal experience has been great. I mean, those are the ones who are, sort of bright and rebellious enough to end up even talking to me or becoming my friend. But a broader view does seem like there's a little bit of a problem, and it does come from 13 years of Chinese style brainwashing through the public schools, through the colleges. I just find it hard to believe that any sentient being could go through this. The crazy PC culture of colleges. Whoa, have the left swept our institution. The cultural Marxism has so completely triumphed at the universities. But like I say, I can't see a sentient being, whether they speak out about it or not resenting it and it making them angry, which is why at least some of the millennials I know, including millennials who came from very left-wing institutions, and I mean they're voluntary places of work that I won't name for fear of outing some of them, total Trumpsters.
Interesting. Ann Coulter, I wanted to ask, the addendum to my leadership question is you standing up to, I think, a lot of people who you would have thought were friends who have now sort of joined this uniparty, this globalist establishment that is really in contrast to the anti-establishment populist nationalist movement that's taking place, that's kind of led by Jeff Sessions and now Donald Trump, and largely you, and largely Breitbart. And I wanted to ask if you have ever wavered and ask how you keep your sanity when there is just so much hatred thrown your way and you're proven right consistently.
Well, I think like Trump, I wasn't born with that gene that makes you worry about what other people think.
Yeah.
It's a very useful way to be. But I care about the country more. And luckily, so do a lot of Americans. I may be wrong from time to time. I don't think so. But I'm always telling you what I believe. I'm not telling you something because I think this is going to get me on TV.
Yes, and I thought of this when I was reading the article by, I think it was Michael Goodwin in the New York Post, about how the Trump supporters and Trump is really taking more shots than the Islamic State even, or any of the actual evils in the world. And a lot of it is led by people who you and I would have considered friends just a couple of years ago. And it's a remarkable moment in terms of the anger at people who beat them fair and square in the primary. And they don't understand that with Trump's faults, that there is so much that he has just been correct on. And I realize that it's almost like the Twitter world has almost become like a high school cafeteria where there's the cool kids table and there's the non-cool kids table. But are the American people, do they care about the Twitter cool kids right now?
Well, I consider us the cool kids. I think there are two things going on. One is the uniparty, as you call it. I do sort of hate the phrase Washington establishment because it's been so misused in the past. But I mean, it's hard to come up with a better phrase.
We got to work on it. Let's put our heads together. I don't know if I like either, but
right. Yeah. The Republican brain trust, the Washington establishment, the insiders, and the people to whom I'm referring are, 100% of the lobbyists, the consultants, the think tanks, the pollsters, everyone who drinks water and doesn't have the rainwater grain alcohol combo that you have, keeping you safe and pure in the Washington, D.C. area. This is existential for them. If they can't shake down billionaires to run loser candidates like Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush and feed them all their little talking points and here, we'll tell you how it's done. These poor billionaires, they've been fooled all this time by the consultants. They thought they must be good because they were expensive. That's how many people value things. Oh, that costs a lot of money. He must be good at what he does. Well, wow, Trump sure showed they are not good at what they do. And the other thing is there's always resentments toward the person who whooped your butt. So, for example, I remember this from 2012 as each Republican dropped out as Romney, and I was a huge Romney supporter because he was the best on immigration we had until the dawn of Trump. As each Republican dropped out, Rick Perry, Herman Cain, Newt Gingrich, they would endorse anyone but Romney. They went out, throwing bombs over their shoulders at Romney on the way out. So there's always bitterness toward the guy who just beat you. That I understand. But the bitterness, the sour grapes coming from Ted Cruz and John Kasich, it's being encouraged by a media culture that will reward them, that will suddenly discover how much respect the New York Times has for Mormons and for all the people who led us into the Iraq War. Suddenly they're respected foreign policy advisors. I mean, I write about this in my second book, Slander, all of the, and actually several of my books, all of the media rewards that are waiting for any Republican who turns on a fellow Republican. Well, any Republican who turns on Trump, I mean, it's hilarious. I don't really watch that much cable news anymore because it's unwatchable. It's nothing but slander. I mean, if they give me a good argument on the other side, I like to hate watch TV, but it's just nonstop bilge coming from these people. But I have noticed before I stopped watching a lot of at least the news, all these people you've never heard of before, who don't exactly, have, square-jawed good looks. What, like Rick Wilson? Have you ever heard of him? Charlie Sykes? Suddenly, you want a career in TV. You announce yourself a Republican who's a never-Trumper.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Like, you have guys like John Podhoretz, who I'm not saying John Podhoretz hasn't written some smart things over the years. Obviously not the best looking guy on the right side of the aisle. And he comes on, he gets on MSNBC, and he smugly makes fun of places like Breitbart and people like you and me, and they treat him like he is anything to say that people are interested in it, and they're just not. And I'm not saying that to be insulting to the guy. I'm saying it because his values were rejected. He lost big time, and he's standing there playing nice, drinking a milkshake with two straws with the mainstream media, and we don't know what this is adding. It's not adding anything to the national dialogue because you're talking to people who have had no sway over the electorate, and maybe they will next time. Maybe they will in 2020. This is not a black and white absolute thing, but this time around, they got their butts kicked, and the mainstream media is doing rehab for the Republican establishment. Imagine that, Ann.
No, Ann, that's right. And, I write about this sort of thing in my book. I mean, these people, they're the ones who used to accuse conservatives of principle like us of being the sore losers and they'll take their ball and go home. Well, no one. Their hatred for Donald Trump cannot compare to my hatred for Mr. Amnesty John McCain. I did try to oppose him as hard as I could and try to make it Romney. This is back in 2008 at the very end of the primaries. But then when that was it, and it was Obama versus McCain, I mean, frankly, among the three of them, Hillary, Obama, McCain, I would have taken Hillary over McCain.
Wow.
Because we knew we were getting amnesty with McCain. In any event, I just shut my yap about McCain. I talked about Palin. I talked about the House races. I talked about the Senate races. In fact, I think I very gallantly started a website titled Get Drunk and Vote for McCain.
You did.
.com. Why can't they do this? Okay, you don't like Trump. Work on the Senate and the House races, but don't go out and waste your precious TV time attacking our nominee.
I'll tell you why. I got an answer. It's virtue signaling. This is the new culture now where you must get on record to state that you are the most virtuous and the least pragmatic. And that is the essence of being a pundit right now.
But it's utterly unvirtuous. We know perfectly well the essay portion of the exam is over. It is a multiple choice.
Yes.
It's either Hillary or it's Donald Trump. And if it's Hillary, that's it. There isn't. You talk about 2020. No, I'm sorry that you have a career in politics being cut off so short, but the whole country becomes California. Hillary and Tim Kaine, her vice president, have promised to grant illegals amnesty. We know there's not going to be any resistance from Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, where Democrats overnight get 30 million new voters, in addition to, all the Muslim immigrants and refugees Hillary plans to bring in. It is over. It's not even going to be the Chuck Schumer Democratic Party against the Nancy Pelosi Democratic Party. As you know from California, in multicultural societies, people don't vote parties. They vote their ethnicity. It will be, as in California, the Asian Democrats against the Hispanic Democrats, against the Muslim Democrats. But nobody's going to come to the game anymore when we haven't won anything for 20 years, and Republicans will not be able to win anything if Hillary is elected. Nothing ever. There will be no point to Fox News. There will be no point to Breitbart. There will be no point to what I do. I'm retiring and writing mysteries. The country will be finished.
That is Ann Coulter's mic drop moment. And the new book, In Trump We Trust, Pluribus Awesome, I want to ask a couple specific questions about the book. But first, on that topic, I wanted to play this clip of Donald Trump. I think he's been on fire this week. I'm going to get your take on that. And I'm looking forward to proving the haters wrong and criticizing him. But he's just been doing so much good stuff over the last week that it has been a lot of Trump happy talk. Let's play this clip and see if you agree that he deserves it.
We are also going to reject the bigotry of Hillary Clinton, who sees people of color only as votes and not as human beings worthy of a better future. So true. That is so true. Democratic Party has run nearly every inner city for 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, and even more than 100 years. They have produced only poverty, failing schools, and broken homes. In the last 8 years, the African American labor force participation has declined another 3 percentage points, and it's dropped another 6 percentage points for teenagers, and that's already from the most dismal numbers in history. Nearly 4 in 10 African American children live in poverty. African American home ownership has declined nearly 10 percentage points from record levels. This is just in the last short while. Also, since 2009, another 2 million Latinos have fallen into poverty. Incomes for Latino workers fell by almost another $1,000 a year, again, by terrible standards. Meanwhile, homicides are up nearly 50% in Washington, D.C., and more than 60% in Baltimore, and up all over the place, no matter where you look. The level of crime in these cities is something no American should consider acceptable.
And you, aside from I have a criticism. First of all, I don't like the Latinos thing. He can just say Latinos. He can just, that's fine. He doesn't need the accent, because I don't get why people must do that in public life.
I know.
But that stuff, and granted, I come from a liberal area. I went to liberal college in a liberal area, and I started working for Larry Elder. I've been waiting for a Republican to speak plainly to the black community, because I want the black community to thrive. I want the Latino community to thrive in this country, and they're being lied to and taken for granted by the Republican Party. Have you ever heard a Republican talk like this to those groups of people?
Other than Larry Elder, no. No, it's beautiful. It's perfect. And in general, one of the things, I may write about this week, one of the things I've liked about Trump is that he doesn't speak to Latinos qua Latinos. He doesn't go and speak to Muslim groups and tell you what. He rejects the identity politics of the left, which is fantastic. He speaks to them as Americans. And as Americans, he promises to bring jobs back, to get wages up, to end these job-killing trade deals. And that is extremely appealing. You're never going to outbid the Democrats on identity politics.
Yes.
But I do make the exception as I've written and talked about forever, for African Americans who have gotten the short end of the stick in this country, first with slavery, then with the Democrats' policies of Jim Crow, then with the Democrats' policy of just soul-crippling welfare programs. I do think we owe something more to people who have been in this country for centuries, compared to an immigrant who ran across the border last week. And with the Democrats, he's absolutely right. The Democrats just see blacks and Hispanics as voters. That's it. Just bring them in. And the Democrats are about to dump African Americans and move on to the far more numerous Hispanics. No, I think it's really outrageous I just keep looking back and thinking, what if instead of dumping 30 million poverty-stricken third worlders on the country starting in 1970, America had turned its attention to really helping black people. We had ended the disastrous Great Society programs. We really focused on that. I don't think we'd be having these Fergusons and Baltimores and Milwaukee riots today.
No, and we got Black Lives Matter protesting, unironically, a black cop shooting a black criminal in Milwaukee and not caring about the black people suffering in the Louisiana floods. And you wonder why people think this country is heading on the wrong direction. Ann Coulter's my guest. When she comes back, I'm going to ask her what we can learn from her new book, In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome. I'm watching it ascend the Amazon charts as we speak, no doubt due to this fantastic audience. And we're going to be taking some of your calls and some of your questions for Ann, and we'll get her assessment on where the man stands, the candidate that she was such a vocal supporter of before pretty much anyone else, Donald Trump. Ann, is it an 11-time best-selling author at this point? Do I have that right?
Yes, this is my
Unbelievable.
12th book.
This is your 12th book, and I got a feeling we could get there, but we're not going to do it without your help, ladies and gentlemen. Breitbart.com, you can check it out, an exclusive excerpt with over 5,000 comments, which is truly insanity for a book excerpt at Breitbart.com, and a review from Julia Hahn as well. The book, In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome, on shelves today. Beautiful layout on the Drudge Report also, which is quite cool. So I'm sure you'll be getting quite a bit of attention, Ann. And I was getting some feedback for the interview during the break, and people are, and as I've been saying, as I've been preaching the doctrine of Ann since I was a teenager, they're very impressed with your intellectual rigor. Is it the fact is that these things are very well researched? They're funny. They're every bit as funny as Jon Stewart, who tends to just kind of make a gape mouth face at the right moment, and that's how he gets most of his jokes. But the writing is funny, and you can see that from an excerpt. But to talk about your process in terms of your research. You're one of the best researchers in the business.
Thank you. I am a little fanatical about research. You'll notice from, I think I say it on page 1 or 2, I have a string of quotes of various pundits and the commentariat saying that Trump's appeal, it's all about personality and people are angry and they'll say it's anything but the I word, immigration. Yes. And I just ran the string of quotes together and put in a parenthetical saying I'm too busy to footnote. So there are fewer footnotes in this book, though I did footnote some of the important stuff, but not the things that were unnecessary. But I come from a legal background. I was just thinking about this yesterday. I learned so much from my longtime editor, Doug Pepper. He used to claim that all he would do in editing me was unexample things, because I'd make a point and then I always felt like I had to. It was like I was writing a legal brief. I'd have to give you 10 examples, sometimes 20 examples of it. And he said to me, Ann, just pick 3 and move on. You don't need 20 examples of every point you make. And so that's what I do now. Pick a few
Maybe for
examples.
The junkies, you can make the unabridged Coulter version of this book.
Right.
So it could be 900
in one
pages.
chapter, no policy specifics. It has been driving me crazy. There are all these cliches the media comes up with to attack Trump that don't make any sense. And one of the ones I used to hear every time I turned the TV on was, well, he won't give us any policy specifics. He says he'll build a wall, but no policy specifics. He's going to renegotiate trade deals, no policy specifics. He's introduced policies, policy-laden policy papers. Throughout this period, he's been attacked for having no facts, no policy specifics. No, people say that on TV because they don't have an answer to what his policy specifics are. We didn't need to know from FDR, how to refuel a landing craft vehicle. We didn't need that level of policy specific. We want to know what his plan is. And as I go through in describing the debates, he was the only one in either party giving us policy specifics. He will build a wall. He will ban or certainly significantly curtail immigration from Muslim countries. He will deport illegals. He'll let ICE do its job. He'll renegotiate trade deals. He won't be constantly looking for wars to get involved in. What were the other candidates' positions on these things? I mean,
no, you could name them, and you heard that clip we just played, and it was 2 minutes of one data-driven fact after another, and he'll get no credit for that. But if he sends a stupid tweet to Joe Scarborough, then we can talk about that all morning, and you wonder why we say the media is corrupt. And we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left in the program, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to do a little more rapid fire with you. I got a couple more questions, and then we're going to bring in some people from who are calling from throughout the country who are excited to ask you a question. I think I will interpret their question for the sake of speed. But the first thing is, in terms of the book, what is something that people who might read your columns, which come out every week, first on Breitbart, we get an hour head start on it every Wednesday, and who listen to Breitbart News Daily, go to Breitbart.com. What's something that we will learn in this book by reading it?
I'm always so bad at summaries, but I'll tell you a few interesting things. One, I think the entire price of the book is worth the Geniuses appendix, which is nothing but quotes from 6 months of people laughing at Trump, and he's not going to make it through New Hampshire. My God,
that is it right there.
He's not making it to Iowa. And, it's one thing to be, a prediction is a prediction. I don't expect you to be right. But the arrogance and
the smugness. Yes. This is what's killed me. They weren't just wrong, they were smug.
No, I know, and that's why, and it used to drive me crazy. I mean, I wrote a column about this at the time that you might remember. I saw you on TV predicting that Trump would be the nominee, and that was the last I ever saw you on TV. So, if you were correct, if you were one of these lonely voices in the wilderness, you were completely banned from TV. And then they had the audacity 6 months later to sit around these same, meet the press tables and say, well, we all got that wrong. Well, no, you wouldn't invite those of us who were getting it right on television.
Yeah, right. And well, I think they are willing to have me back on now, so I can defend Breitbart and I can defend Steve and not talk about the issues and do what they had the Clinton News Network and the New York Times editors and the Time Magazine editors, and whenever they're in bed with the Clintons or the Obamas, they always have their editors and trot them out to have a Brady Bunch panel with a 5-on-1, trying to get them to defend their news outlet. But I digress a bit, and let's talk a little bit more about the book.
I also go through some of, and this I couldn't do in columns. I needed a little more expansive capacity. I go through a lot of the lies told about Trump, the alleged attack on the disabled reporter, utter complete nonsense. That was just to cover up the media doing PR for Islam since 9/11. The alleged attack on John McCain, that takes just a little bit longer than a column, but to read the full context, I mean, I get to I set it up and then give the full quote, get to the end and say, now reading that. Do you think the media told you the truth about that comment? So you get a lot of corrections on things like that. It's an attack on the media, and I think to the surprise of my publisher, not a surprise to you, a just blowtorch attack on my former party, the ex-Republican Party, before it became the Trumpian Republican Party.
And give me your one-sentence response to a couple closing questions. Are you optimistic about Trump's chances in November? That's Jerry in Pennsylvania asking.
Yes.
Okay. Don in Florida is asking, you worried about election fraud? Yes. I mean, I'll make it this one sentence, though. That's why I wanted Chris Kobach as the vice president. We need to get Chris Kobach out there. This is his specialty. Any close election will be stolen by the Democrats, so don't let it be close. Hillary's health, conspiracy or a serious issue?
I love, in addition to no policy specifics, what the left says when they don't have an answer is, that's a conspiracy theory. No, it's a theory.
No, yeah, I think that is on the money. How about Mike Pence? I know you were skeptical at first. He seems to be doing a little better job.
Yeah, it's not. I like him. And by the way, I only attacked him when he wasn't yet chosen as the nominee. I wish it were Chris Kobach, because Trump is out there all alone with the entire media leveling unprecedented attacks against him, and to have two of them out there, I think would be better than one. But Pence is fine. He's not doing any harm.
Do you want to let Trump be Trump some more, or do you like him reining it in with the new tone?
I don't consider this reining it in. I just think it's a slightly more presidential version. It's the same person. It's the same issues. Those speeches are magnificent. It's not new. It's more detailed. It's less, free form and and jazz improvisational, but it's the same Trump. It's the same issues. And yeah, I love his recent speeches, which is why you've got to go look them up yourself. The media will not let you see them.
Ann Coulter, the new book, In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome. I haven't got a chance to read it yet, and I love that because I savor Ann Coulter's books. We don't get them that often, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking time. And on Breitbart News Daily with Alex Marlowe, pick up the book at Amazon.